This is a chapter review for Vinland Saga 188, Hild and the God of the Forest. This is a chapter I was personally very excited for, based on the preview at the end of last month's chapter that said this would be about Hild in the Winter Forest. Immediately, that setting of a winter forest reminded me of Hild's introduction in Norway in the Hunter and the Hunted arc, when she first tried to kill Thorfinn. So the fact that Yukimura is making this callback to that setting tells me that this is going to be a chapter about introspection for Hild, about Hild looking back at how far she's come since then, since she's entered this group, and kind of assessing how she currently feels about Thorfinn and her goal of eventually killing him. So this chapter absolutely delivers on that expectation, and we'll see that as we move forward here. So this chapter is centered around Hild tracking this bear through the forest. A bear comes up to the river very close to the settlement and is hunting for fish here. So the fact that it was comfortable enough to come this close to the settlement, and it's not in hibernation despite it being winter, it shows that it's a threat. And the settlers are saying, we need to kill it before it causes trouble. We can't leave it alone. And they're talking about gathering a hunting party, but Hild says, no need, I'm gonna go do this alone. And the settlers kind of try to stop her, but Thorfinn says, understood, thank you. He fully trusts her, and he knows this is her field of expertise. So Hild goes off into this forest alone. So Hild is tracking the bear, and we get to see her hunting knowledge here. She sees that the bear is kind of wavering based on its track, and she can kind of determine that it might have been searching for food. And she kind of confirms that when she finds this berry bush and sees that the bear had been eating berries from the bush. The fact that the bear was eating berries means that the bear is desperate. The bear is hungry enough to eat something as small as a berry, something that's not going to really satisfy it and be like a real meal for a bear. So when a bear is that hungry, that's when they become a threat. That's when they'll come close to humans and enter the settlement because they need to eat something. And they'll either eat food from the settlement or worse, eat a person. So Hild knows she can't just leave it be. She continues to track the bear, and as she's tracking it, she thinks back, it's been a long time, and starts to introspect finally. And she knows it's been a long time since she's tracked a bear like this. She's been on this journey for well over 2 years, maybe even 3, and she's come a long way. And she acknowledges here, she's gotten too used to living with people. It's not good how close she's gotten and how comfortable she's gotten and how she's become a teacher for the kids. And one of the most important dynamics with the kids in her teacher-student relationship is Carly. Carly is a symbol of the new Thorfinn, of his new kindness and caring nature, and kind of just blatant evidence of the new person he's become. All Carly knows of Thorfinn is his compassion and his kindness. Carly does not know what Thorfinn did in the past, and Carly can't really understand. Carly is kind of a symbol of innocence in that sense. And Carly drops a very loaded question on Hild, saying, you're always fighting with Daddy. Why? And Hild's kind of taken aback by this. She's like, who says that? And it's like, oh, Bug Eye says that. And he also says, time heals all wounds. This is calling back to one of the more recent chapters where Thorfinn and Carly were talking about forgiveness. And they talked about Thorfinn apologizing a lot and Thorfinn being forgiven. So we're kind of getting payoff on that already here. And Carly's like, is it time yet? He continues, did Daddy do something bad? You're angry at him. Did Daddy apologize? And he says here the question that we've been asking Hild since we met her. When the time comes, will you forgive Daddy? This is her whole arc summarized in a question. When the time comes, will she kill him or will she forgive him? And he continues, Daddy's real sorry. Will you forgive him even if it's for my sake, he's saying. And we can see this panel here that it really kind of seeps into her. She thinks deeply about this and she's really grappling with this question. And she's not able to answer it here. But we'll see later in the chapter, she will answer this question. But that thought process is interrupted as she comes across this. It's a buried deer covered in snow. Bloody snow, but the bear caught a deer was able to eat. And because of that, that means it's close. This was recent. This was after the bear was spotted at the river. And now she's able to track it and she will find it soon. And she finds that it has buried itself in a hole. And that means it's entered hibernation. It's eaten enough. It was able to finally get the prey that it needed to kind of have a satisfied meal so that it's able to sleep through the winter. And this means that the bear is no longer a threat. The bear is not putting the settlement in danger anymore. And this is a huge difference, because now killing the bear is no longer necessary. It's whether or not Hild wants to take that extra precaution or not. And we can see here, she decides to walk away. As she's walking away, night falls, and she settles down. And here we can see her hunting instincts again. She can hear the wolves, but determines they're far enough away. She hears the crow, determines it must have caught something. And as she's thinking about this forest, she's thinking, I shouldn't be this familiar with the forest, but it's a good forest. And the most important thing she thinks here is, I'll take Carly hunting here when he gets older. Just before, while she was tracking the bear, she was saying, oh, this is not good. I've gotten too close to these people. But when it comes down to it, when she's under the stars alone here and thinking, she is happy with her position. She enjoys being a teacher for the kids. She enjoys being almost a mother-like figure for Carly. She is happy here. And she's starting to accept that. She feels like she needs to be secluded because that's how she's lived her whole life. She's lived her whole life since losing her mentor in kind of solitude, where it's her against the world and her trying to get her revenge. But in this moment, she shows her kind of true colors that, no, this is what she really wants. She wants to be part of this settlement. But this thought process is cut short when she suddenly hears a footstep. And then we get this. The god of the forest. This abrupt in-your-face panel. Brilliant paneling here from Yukimura, as always. And this god of the forest here, I'll just say this now, this is not a real god, nor is it a person in like a bear costume. This isn't like a native. This is in Hild's head. Vinland Saga has done this a lot, even since the prologue, where it's visualized people's internal conflicts and internal pain with sort of paranormal-esque imagery. And this is no different. This is simply in her head, and this is her kind of confronting her decision to not kill the bear. So the bear asks her, you who came from the sea, why did you not kill the bear? And she answers, it was our mistake. She says that It's because they took the northern part of the bear's territory. It was unable to fill its stomach before winter arrived, so it wasn't able to enter hibernation. And it was desperate enough to come close towards people, come to the river, and hunt for fish. But when it saw the women, it fled. Despite being hungry, it didn't attack people. And now it's hibernating. Everything's okay, and she doesn't need to interfere. The bear keeps questioning her though. You who came from the sea, I thought you hated bears, because a long time ago, a leader of yours was killed by one. Despite this, you claim to understand the bear? This is a direct callback to the death of her mentor. The mentor she met after losing her father taught her how to hunt, taught her how to fire a crossbow, helped her figure out how to create her own crossbow that would be easier for her to use so she can become stronger. So he was like another father figure to her, and he was killed by a bear. So it's expected that she would hate bears. And the god questions her on this. And here she answers the god's question and at the same time gives us her answer to Carly's question. She says, that was long ago. It's been many, many years since her mentor was killed by a bear. It's also been many, many years since Thorfinn killed her father. All of that was long ago. This connection between her father's death and her mentor's death gives us another connection between bears and Thorfinn. Bears are responsible for taking her mentor away, who is like a father figure to her, and her actual father was taken away by Thorfinn. So these two kind of entities are completely tied in her brain, in her kind of like subconscious. So in that same way, we can determine how she feels about Thorfinn and how she like thinks about this idea of killing him and getting her revenge based on how she treats the bear. And here we see she acknowledged that the bear is no longer a threat to her. It ate its food. It's hibernating now. It's not going to hurt anyone. Thorfinn obviously has already hurt someone. He's already hurt her. He's already hurt a lot of people. So it's not exactly the same. However, we can acknowledge this. When the settlers were talking about killing the bear before it causes trouble, this is a lot like Hild going to kill Thorfinn in Norway. She was ready to kill him without talking to him, without seeing if he's still that person, if he's become a better person. She wanted to kill him before he does more harm to the world, and at the same time satisfy her revenge. But now we can see she doesn't feel the need to do that anymore. The bear isn't going to hurt someone. The bear is not a threat. And Thorfinn, he's here in Vinland. He's living on his promise to her that he will not hurt anybody. He has kind of lived with her crossbow pointing at him for years now. And he's still continuing on his goal of making a land of peace and atoning for his sins. And she sees that. And she, in this moment, it subconsciously says that she doesn't need to kill him anymore. So she wakes up in the morning, clears up her camp, puts out the fire, puts on her clothes, and goes back to the settlement. This chapter is absolutely brilliant, beautiful, and has everything that makes Vinland Saga special. We finally got Hild to answer the important question of her arc, where Carly says, when the time comes, will you forgive Thorfinn? And she was able to not kill the bear and acknowledge that. So we can determine that, yeah, she will forgive him. Maybe not now. It's probably too soon. I doubt she's gonna run back to the settlement now and start forgiving him and telling him it's okay. But this was the long-awaited answer to that question, and using the framing of the bear here is such a brilliant decision from Yukimura, and calling back to the death of her mentor to the bear as well. It all just culminates so beautifully to have a kind of quiet but powerful climax to Hild's arc, and now we can really expect her to finally have a conversation with Thorfinn. It's hard to say when, but I think now we know it's coming, and internally, she has finally come to this conclusion, and it was just masterfully handled. So that's going to conclude this chapter review for Vinland Saga 188. This was a really brilliant and beautiful chapter about Hild's growth and Hild's internal answer to the question of whether or not she will forgive Thorfinn. And I'm excited to see where that goes. But next time, we're going to be moving back towards looking at our central conflict with the shaman's ritual beginning. So this is in reference to Nisquashi's conversation with the shaman a couple chapters ago, where he acknowledged her vision, acknowledged the threat of her vision potentially coming true, and decides that he needs to take action by undergoing a ritual. And she was concerned about this ritual because it would cause strain on him. So whatever this ritual is, it is very serious and is not something that the tribe is going to be taking lightly. So whatever this ritual results in, it's going to determine how the tribe is going to feel about the Norse and interact with the Norse going forward, and potentially it's going to increase the tension and take a huge step in our central conflict for this arc. So, next chapter is going to be very important, and I'm excited to see what Yukimura decides to do with it. But until then, that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next month.